and how Indian industry could take huge leadership in this space. And it is the first, I mean, I would say that in this annual business session of CII 2025, he is the only industry lead speaker who is addressing solo. And we are so grateful to you for accepting this invitation and doing it. It's a very tough subject to deal with, and we have been talking about it, but we have not seen the type of results that leaders like you have visualized. But it would be great to hear you, your views on it, and how institutions could actually, institutions as well as industry, could really play a significant and a meaningful role on the subject that we have chosen for ourselves. With that, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mr. Sunil Bharti Mittal. May I request you to please give your keynote address.
Thank you, CV. A very good afternoon to all of you. I am indeed delighted to be here at the CI annual session. And I know I stand between lunch and this particular keynote. But I'm sure you'll give the patient hearing that this particular session deserves, which is about responsible capitalism. Building trust has been an article of faith for all of us at CII. I've had the pleasure of leading this institute in 2007, 2008. And I can say with great deal of authority that this is one institution that is built on the foundation of creating trust between all stakeholders. Today is a very special time in the life of a nation that rarely comes when almost all positive influences that can create the right momentum and pressure are available on our country today. Everything like confluence is coming together to really assist and give us the tailwinds that our country needs. I have been in business and industry for nearly 49 years. I've entered my 50th years, and I have therefore seen the cycles that the country has gone through, right from those days of great deal of shortages to one of great abundance, from limited and incremental ambition to an ambition today which is almost difficult to contain. I have seen these changes from very close quarters, and I've had the privilege of working through these changes in the country. Today, we are blessed to be in a country which is going to be the third largest economy in the world, and we can quibble about which year, whether it's 27, 28, or 29 or 30. In the destiny, in the fortunes of a country, a year or here or there should not really matter. But what is important is that we are now on the cusp of becoming the third largest economy in the world. And all of us know what it means for a country when it grows economically strong. No one knows it better than our political leadership, which is trying very hard to ensure that India becomes economically strong so that it can have a voice on the big table where the global leaders in power sit together to shape the global affairs. I personally feel we are all truly blessed to be building along with the government in India during these wonderful times that we are blessed with. I will speak about a few pillars which are important, but before that, let me talk about the role of our industry. Role in creating that necessary trust that we need to create for all our stakeholders, and ensuring that we keep in all our decisions, in all our directions, India first at the very core of it. Industry has a very important role to play. Yet, I don't think we have earned the complete trust of all stakeholders. Many a times, it is seen that we approach issues from our individual or at times sectoral interests and may have taken our eye off the larger national interest, or India first as the theme here is today. And that's what I'll talk about today. Our industry plays a very vital role in moving the economic agenda of the country forward. That one job that we give to an engineer or a technician or a delivery boy, the salary check that he takes with him in that month creates the spending power, creates savings, gives momentum to the economy. And that flywheel of more momentum into the economy generates more demand for products and services. And the second job, and the millionth job, and the 10th millionth job just creates a huge momentum that is so important for any virtuous cycle that is to play out in any economy. We have witnessed that in the mobile phones, where one begets another one, and million begets another million, running up to a billion mobile phones in the hands of Indians. I've seen that from very close quarters. We are therefore a very important part of this mission of making India a very strong nation, third largest economy in the world. Let me turn my attention to the four pillars that I like to talk about. First and foremost is talent dividend. And I'm moving away from demographic dividend, which we are blessed with. 1.4 billion people, aspirational, young, wanting to have a better life, wanting to have a stake in the society, consuming more products and services every day, and superior products and services every day. Within that demographic dividend and the huge markets that we are creating, we need to focus on talent dividend. As the CI president, when at that time Tarun Das he's here today. I'm glad to see him after a long time. He was the Secretary General at that time. The government started to talk about affirmative action. I was in the middle of it, and we were talking to the government that industry will play its role in creating the right employment, generational opportunities. It will create the right talent. It will work towards skilling. It will try to create job-ready people through their education and skilling. How have we succeeded in that in the last 15, 17 years? I think the industry has played a role. But have we done enough? Perhaps the answer is no. Even now we hear some voices coming from some parts of the political spectrum about some form of reservation in the private sector. And we all know that debate can continue. But how we can completely avoid the debate is by creating a workforce, creating a talent dividend that this country needs today. We all know the world is aging. Most of the developed nations have very aged workforce. They're short of people. Yet the walls on immigration are rising every day. Our young people, our engineers, our trained people, our nurses, our doctors, our teachers are not going to get as easy access as they've had in the past. Thankfully, the world has moved to a digital medium. Today, from the comfort of their homes, in urban or villages, they can serve the globe. It is therefore no surprise that we are seeing the growth of GCC centers here in India in a dramatically large way. 1 million people coming and knocking at the doors of our society for a job every month. 1.5 million engineers being produced in the country every year, more than US and China put together. All of them need to be harnessed. This energy needs to be harnessed. There is so much potential out there. There's so much talent out there, but it's not necessarily job ready. That is where skilling and the right kind of engagement with the academia of the industry becomes vitally important. We need to do much more. I think we are still working on the fringes of collaboration between industry and academia. And that is one place where I would like my industry friends, industry players to lead the charge and work more with the academical institutions to create job-ready talent for the country. We need it for our own needs. We need it for the globe. It's absolutely an imperative and an essential to importantly take away the debate on is industry creating employment or not. There are new areas which we need to focus on: AI, green energy, space-com, next generation of connectivity and telecom technologies. All this needs to be focused upon. The second pillar I would like to turn my attention to is R&D. India spends 1%, less than 1% of its GDP on R&D. This has been almost always woefully inadequate for a country of our size. China does 2.5% of its largest GDP. Korea does 5%. And yes, countries which have small markets like Taiwan, Korea, Israel, and many others need to do that because they have no choice, because they have no local markets. They have to create innovative, new, cutting edge products to go and serve the globe. Yes, we have the advantage that we have a large domestic market, but should we not spend more on R&D, more on innovation, and no more just pure frugal innovation, which we do well, but going into really meaningful, deep scientific, deep technological advances that India needs to make for ourselves and for the world. Indian industry needs to step up its spending on R&D. Are there any obstacles? Do we need more tax breaks for R&D spending? Do we need incentives from the government? I know that in the past, the R&D expenditures were encouraged, there were incentives, there were tax pass-throughs. Many of those were taken away because the government felt the industry was not utilizing it well or doing enough. I think here we come back to the point of trust. Let's do and demonstrate what is required from us in terms of R&D spending so that the government can also step up its game and encourage more R&D spending. Government themselves are doing a lot. Just 3 days back, 1,000 crores was announced for R&D efforts towards the future space and telecom technologies. So government is putting up 1,000 crores. The industry needs to, with academia, take advantage of that, contribute its own money into the pool and create a larger R&D ecosystem. This will be my second point. The third point is really on a trade reset. We need to have a mindset in which products and services are purpose fit for today's world. We need to diversify export basket. We need to focus on what is required in the world, create industries, factories, and capabilities to serve the world in the areas that is much required. We are good on exports, but are we doing enough? The answer would probably be no. And this is where I think CII, chambers, we as industry players need to work with the government and create policy frameworks to ensure that we are diversifying our export basket. No raw material should really leave our shores without being processed and value added. That should be an article of faith with all of us in the industry. And the more we can do locally here by adding value, the better off we will be. Import substitution will be another area. We import over $600 billion worth of electronic goods and components. The PLI scheme that the government launched has made a dramatic difference of seeing manufacturing coming in India. And I honestly hadn't thought during my lifetime we'll see electronic manufacturing coming here. Not just electronic manufacturing of smartphones, mobile phones, washing machines, refrigerators, televisions, etc. But we are also now launching, as you know, a semiconductor mission where government is laying out very large amounts of money for support, in support of the semiconductor mission in the country. It will not happen overnight. It will not happen in the next 2-3 years. But in 10 years' time, the seeds that we are sowing today in this country will start to flourish and show us the advantages because semiconductor will become an important area and it does consume a lot of money. And every import substitution that we do, we create more foreign exchange reserves. The dollar that has to leave our shores stays with us, goes straight into our reserves. Importantly, it retires the serious import issues that we may have. Hydrocarbon imports are another area. We hear that Northeast is floating in oil and gas. We as industry, players who are in that space and the new players who want to enter the space need to go and exploit our own mineral resources to get them out at the service of a nation. We need to reduce our import in oil and gas. We are doing a dramatically good job in the area of renewable energy, solar, wind, all of that is doing well. But add to that hydrocarbon from our domestic sources will be a game changer for us. The fourth pillar, to my mind, is one of the most important pillars and relevant for a chamber like CII. And that is really in the area of policy framework. Industry, the country, the stakeholders, society, all of us assembled here today, need to put our minds together to figure out how do we get a policy framework that creates velocity towards our efforts of building India. The Viksit Bharat dream that our Prime Minister has needs further acceleration And I know government is doing enough and more, but perhaps there are areas which we know are better or missing where the government needs to provide some more relief to the industry. And that is the job of CII as a chamber, that we work with the government to co-create these policies. There are also needs of the government. The government also has certain expectations from us. We need to engage with the government to hear their views, seek their inputs, ask what is needed from their side to build in the country. 5G was a fine example where industry would have taken a few more years. The government engaged with us, gave us a very clear message that India would like to see 5G much faster than is currently being planned. Government moved quickly in allocating the spectrum. Industry showed amazing urgency in building and rolling out the world's fastest 5G network. That is the power of collaborating between the government and the industry, where you fuse the thoughts and co-create something that is good for the nation. CII, during my time, played a seminal role in supporting the government's efforts towards Indo-US nuclear deal. Tarun and I, Chandrajit was very active at that time as well. We played a small but a meaningful part in doing back channel diplomacy, flying into the US, meeting all the stakeholders, meeting Indian politicians across spectrum, and trying to get a buy-in. While we cannot claim credit for that Indo-US nuclear deal, I'm sure our contributions made some difference. Increase in FDI and insurance, FDI opening up in multi-brand retail. The industry played a fantastic role there as well. One area I think where I would ask CII to get more engaged would be something that CII has been pushing since 2012, and that is ONOE, One Nation, One Election. I know it's a touchy subject. It could also be termed outside the boundaries of industry. But no, my own belief is this is a job that is collectively for all of us here. Earlier this year, late January, early February, CII presented to President Kovind Committee a strong recommendation for India to move towards one nation, one election. The reason is very simple. There is far too many disturbances during elections in terms of economic activities. Code of conduct is ushered in fairly early. Everything stops. Government contracts stop. Government payments stop. A lot of restrictions come on the economic activities. And our elections are repeatedly happening every few months, every other year. These multiple elections do create slowdown in our economy. I think the ruling party, the Prime Minister himself, they've all analyzed this and realized the importance of having one nation, one election. And if you can't do it in one step, perhaps it happens in two steps the first time. But eventually, my friends, we really need to get there. And this is where I would say CII should probably form a committee, talk to political parties across the spectrum, show them the benefits that it will give to the country and how they will not be compromised. And hopefully we may again have contributed importantly to an issue which is very key for our country's growth. And if not, at least we would have not been found want of trying. We would have done our very best to do that. That will build trust. That will show that the industry looks at beyond just their profitability, their balance sheets, their revenues, and everything else. Let me, before concluding, turn to the government. Industry will do its job. Industry will do everything possible to generate more employment, spend more in R&D, create import substitution, expand its export basket. We need your help. We need enabling policies, especially in the area of ease of doing business. And I know for this government, ease of doing business is important. They continuously track areas where there are bottlenecks. They release those pressure valves to let the industry and business move forward. I think we need more of it. And this is again where CII should put out a position paper in giving every year few low-hanging fruits where the government can move quickly to allow the industry to have a much easier runway to take off. That could be in the area of corporate affairs, could be area of our listing of companies, could be in the area of floating bonds in the international market, a plethora of things that can be looked at. Tax policies, which continuously are getting better, need to be further demystified and simplified. The movement towards 25% corporate tax, to my mind, was a fine example of the government, where they said, give up all your exemptions and move to a flat rate of 25%. I'm surprised the entire industry has still not moved there. Let's also get rid of the old fascination with those exemptions and move on to a simplified, flat 25% tax rate. We should not stay back in the old regime. There are lakhs and lakhs of crores stuck in litigation, in direct taxes, in indirect taxes, and other regulatory matters. Vivad se Vishwas tak type of schemes need to be brought up. Government will get very large amounts of money released by those schemes. They can be put to good use now. Maybe the government will win in 10 years' time, and that money may become available to the government in 10 years' time. Why not settle it now on the lines of VSVT? More money in the hands of the government today will give us the necessary desired fillip to the infrastructure, to various social programs that is vitally needed, and importantly, release the industry from its past litigations and problems and allow them to reset and look into the future. This will be a very important area. Last part where the government is very active is in the area of signing FTAs. Again, back during my time at CII, when I was active, we did the CECA, the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement with Singapore. Many new FTAs have been done. UK has been recently signed. Our Prime Minister really pushed hard so that we could get to the FTA with UK. AFTA was done earlier. Australia was done earlier. UAE has been done recently. The big BTA with the US, the FTA with EU, and the negotiations with Saudi Arabia are in very advanced stages. I think we have to ensure that the government not just merely safeguards our interest while doing those FTAs, which it will be, but it's also important that we as industry and chambers don't ask for things which will make these FTAs difficult. We have to have a reasonable outcome for those markets to open up for our Indian companies, for those markets to be available to us as we open our markets. So FTAs, more deals, more enablements will help our industry as well. In closing, let me say that building trust and India First is an article of faith with CII, with the Indian industry. Someone who has walked the fine line between ambition and accountability, I say it with great deal of confidence, and a message for our government that industry will play its part. It's rare for industry to have such a large, big market in a single country. It's rare for industry to have such strong support from the government. It is rare that the government's ambition, our political leadership's ambition, is greater than the industry's ambition. What more can we ask? A stable, solid, bold leadership of a Prime Minister, exhorting the Indian industry to do more. We heard Naddaji just before us saying, when he went to the Prime Minister seeking his guidance on the health program, he said, Bada socho. That is what he always says. Think big. Think in a way which creates massive impact and scale in the country. But while doing so, it's important that we keep in our mind that our stakeholders are not just our shareholders who look for profits and dividends. Our stakeholders are also the population at large. If industry grows and that growth is not equitable, I don't think so we would have done our job and earned the trust of the government and the society. We need to ensure that all our stakeholders are equally taken care of. I am reminded of the quote of John Kennedy when he said, ask not what the country can give you. Today is time for us to say, what can we do for the country? And as businessmen, all of us put risk capital, all of us work hard. People have the desire to leave bigger fortunes, bigger wealth, lots of wealth, factories, balance sheets for the children. I think it's important that they keep in mind in their framework, in front, center, and rear view mirror, that you need to leave a great society, a strong nation for them more than anything else. Thank you very much.
What a fantastic speech and what a great visionary address. And thank you for really laying out an agenda for the CII and for us to work on. Always appreciate your giving this type of time, attention, and guidance to the institution for years together. One of the things that you mentioned, and while you have covered everything, and there can be hardly anything as a follow-up question because you really touched upon in your own dynamic way, as you have always done, each and every point, as if there was a sort of a teleprompter somewhere hidden, but nobody other than you could see. That's the way it looked like. I mean, you always speak in that manner. Uh, so just wanted, but one of the things I find that in spite of few leaders like yourself in the industry, industry has still not been able to make that impression with the civil society. And to make that impression with the civil society is something which is very, very critical because at the end of the day, where you are employing your all industry employ so much and there is a huge touch point, but yet there is a lack of trust with the civil society. You talked about many stakeholders. So that's one point which I thought that I'll ask you as to what do you see us doing towards creating that more effectively?
Yeah, I try to cover that. CB, in my own view, this is really all about the conduct and display of the industry. Where is your focus? What are you doing? Are you having inclusive policies while you're hiring people? Our hiring has to be across board. It's got to be non-discriminatory. And while I would say industry at large does a good job, and truly it's a remarkable achievement of the industry that we are going to create so much momentum that India will be the third largest economy. And from millions, we now talk about billions in terms of dollars. So all that is demonstrating that we are doing a good job. But to your point, that are we doing enough? Clearly doesn't seem to be the case because we still do not have that position as a team India that we should have, being this one strong pillar of the government, to say they are now fully attached to the vision of our country. The reason for that is very simple. Many a times we are litigating with the government. Many a times there are different sets of people agitating, representing for different issues within the industry players. And I think that creates friction. Importantly, the disparities, which will take probably a long time to go away, creates their own pressure. The social media, the skepticism, the short-termism that is seen around the country adds to that doubt sometimes about the industry. And that is where we need to work effectively to say we are creating jobs, we are creating opportunities for people. We are going to the government not asking for lowering of taxes. We should go to the government to say, how can we create more momentum in the economy? So the discourse has to change. And if you go back to the time when India got its independence, the industry at that stage, at that point in time, had a very different aura around them. They were seen as stalwarts, they were seen as nation builders. Then in between, we saw long years of socialism where all the industry got engulfed and started to look for their own benefits because things became very difficult. Industry was struggling. We had a very low growth rate. And from the 91, 92 onward, when the change happened, that's the only time the industry got its act together to start to move in tandem and grow the country. And then, of course, you got a fatigue, and then you got a new, very strong leadership in Prime Minister Modi, where again you are seeing that momentum coming. And that's why I say the last 10 years of what has been built needs to be now captured in a way where our actions, our demonstration of what we do in public needs to support that it is not just about your balance sheet's profits, but it's also about what you're doing for the society, how many jobs you're supporting, how many families you're supporting, CSR activities, philanthropic activities. Importantly, giving propositions to the government which are larger in national interest than yourself. It's a journey. This you just can't turn the clock overnight. It'll take years for us to get there. And that's where I would say, if through your AGs, through CII and all, we start talking to a membership of what we expect from them, I think that will also greatly assist. And I think you have a role to play. Our membership has a role to play. Industry has a large role to play. And eventually, if products and services of those companies, which have a very soft acceptability in the marketplace, start doing better, I think that will become the pressure point. I mean, look at the house of Tatas, I would say. I always give that example. When something comes from Tatas, it is seen with a different eye and respect in the marketplace. If more and more Tatas are developed, more and more companies on that in that mold are developed, you'll start to see that trust keeps coming back, and then the when you go to the government to ask for something, it'll be much easier, smoother, and better.
Thank you for that strong message once again. It's really inspiring. And in this hall, we have members from across the country, at least about 600 to 700 people who have traveled from far, I mean, from the south, from the west, from the east. And you've talked about how this can be spread. And I think we will use our membership tool to take that forward. You touched upon one important subject, and tomorrow I expect the headlines to be on that. You talked about one nation, one election, and we see a huge issue of building consensus amongst our policymakers. Not just that, but also between different political entities, so to say. The next work of India, next reforms of India really lies, the story of India lies in the states of India. So there are many players in that space, which and you touched upon a very, very critical point. So how do you see that panning out, and how do we create that consensus amongst not just much beyond industry, with industry's leadership?
Yeah, as I said, this sometimes looks like a point outside the ambit of our industry or industry leaders or even chambers. The fact is that CII has taken this position in 2012, has been strongly taking it up. In February, you made a presentation. I have seen the copy of that. So it's not that CII is not fully vested into this process, but we have stopped there. We have given our presentation. All I'm saying is which forum, which mechanism will allow across spectrum discussions with political parties. And let's understand from the other political parties what are the issues. Maybe our understanding is not clear. Maybe something will come out of those. One thing is very clear, that we can demonstrate that the economic activity suffers. Industrialization suffers. Consumption suffers. The overall, momentum that we want to bring to the country suffers during those periods of elections. And the elections are very frequent. I mean, almost every few months, 6 months, 8 months, there is some 1, 2, 3 elections going on. And then, of course, the big mega election every 5 years. So, economic case we can make. Now, the political case obviously is not for us to make, or is outside our remit to make. But if we can make an economic case and try to demonstrate why this is good for everyone in the country and how it will be nation first, I think we may be able to get some people across the line. Maybe not everybody, but some people. Importantly, we may pick up some messages back from these discourses as to what's holding it back. And that can then be fed back to the government. And you may have played as CII a seminal role in getting something done which is stuck at the moment for long years.
Thank you once again. And lastly, I know that you are constrained for time, but we have Rajiv, as you see in the front row, who is going to take over tomorrow, and we have Mukundan, Tata Chemicals, who is also going to be next in the line, so to say. So both from different parts of the country, one north, one west, and Rajiv has been planning his next year and was very intently listening to all the points 11 points which I wrote down as agenda for the next year. So I'll request Rajiv to, because you had this question in mind about the building trust mission. Why don't you go ahead, Rajiv? Probably you don't have a mic.
I have the privilege of having conversations and listening to Sunil and benefiting from his advice more often than what he may prefer, but it's always a pleasure. No, I think you've elaborated the case of trust very well, Sunil. I think it's something, and the best line that you used, and I think I'm going to use this, is it's an article of faith for CII, should be an article of faith for anyone who believes in building an institution and supporting a country. So there's no question about that. I do want to ask, I'm just going off track to what CB told me, but amongst everything that you covered, I just wanted to understand the impact of AI and future technologies on what impact that will have on India, and how does India play that? How does, because in some ways telecom, you're in the center of it, you're seeing the impact of that. So that was one area, because I didn't hear that. So I was keen to get your perspective on that.
No, AI, as Chandrasekhar rightly mentioned yesterday, is a generational shift. It's not a, it's really a once in a generation shift. What we are going to see coming out of AI on the other side is going to be shifting the entire global situation as we see it today, or as we have experienced in the last several decades. This is not just purely like internet or some of the other technologies we have seen. This is a game changer, and it touches almost every facet of our lives. How will India get impacted? I mean, let's really look at which probably is on everybody's mind is employment. I think India has the largest workforce, the youngest workforce in the world, and in numbers which are huge. As we always have spoken about, there are 320 million children in the age group of 6 to 16. In 10 years' time, there'll be 16 to 26, each wanting a job. As a mammoth task. Is AI going to create difficulties in that area? Some parts are very clearly visible today. And that's where India's strength lies. Software engineers, coders. This is an area where you can actually, as even a layman, you can just speak to a machine now and it'll write the code for you. I mean, it's really becoming that simple. So that's an area of, I would say, stress. And we may need to make some shifts. But using AI will also create new opportunities. Like we have seen in the digital world in the past, many a times when it was said that jobs will go away, more jobs actually got added. Using of AI or usage of AI will become absolutely important for anybody, especially emerging countries like India, young population like India. And my belief is, given the intuitive nature of how these AI models are being built, they'll be very easy to use. You don't need to be sophisticated or highly educated to use this. They'll be very easy for people to use. So I think encouragement to adopt AI, not block its usage, and encourage people to become more AI savvy will be very important to generate more jobs outside it. AI is going to change dramatically our agriculture produce. There is so much that can happen through AI predictability of weather patterns, crop patterns, soil, etc., that you could actually double your agriculture production. So a lot of employment generation could happen there. And then you can, of course, add, as I said, don't just sell your agriculture produce, but make value-added products. So 65% of our population is in villages. If we can activate that part, that'll be good. Industry, telecom, digital, every part of our lives, your own business of consulting or accounting, we'll see dramatic shifts in all that. I think India will, and our leadership talks about is up there dealing with this issue at the moment. It's again something which is work in progress. It's live, it's hot, it's being discussed. That's where I would say engagement with the government becomes extremely important for us as chamber and industry. Look at the case of crypto now. Crypto in the last 6 to 8, 10 weeks has started to move at a pace which has never been seen before. With the Trump administration now supporting cryptocurrencies, I think the world has quickly started to move there. India will have to get a handle on it. So far, the position was no, crypto will not be allowed. We will probably try our own digital currency. But I think things are shifting so fast that you'll have to form a regulation, policies, looking at what's going on in the world and adopt it and see what impact it has on us. So the technology space, Rajiv, is moving very fast. And the good thing is we'll be hearing from Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav just after this session. He is the minister in charge of METI, who's actively working on this. Some of you who will be here should ask him the questions around both AI and crypto, and you'll probably get a better answer than I can give you. But in my opinion, this is, as Chandrasekhar said, a generational shift. We have to embrace it, we have to adopt it, we have to make use of it for advantage on our side, rather than grappling with the issues and trying to avoid it. And Rajiv, with that, I would also say I would like to welcome you as the next president of CII. I know the process is underway. In the next few hours, 24 hours, you'll be taking over the helm. And I must say, in you also, we will have an advantage because you don't run a particular industry vertical. You have been sort of a generalist available to all the industry across the board. You have worked with the government on many committees, very critical committees, decriminalization of laws, corporate laws in the country, I think you will have a much better hearing from the government than many of us who are in businesses have had. So with that, I would say I want to wish you to take this agenda forward and create that trust that we really need.
Thank you. Thank you. You have you went back, and I will not inflict with more questions because I know that you want to close, but I just wanted to say that you jogged back into 2007 8 and during your term as president, and you talked about certain initiatives that were actually quite path-breaking. One another initiative which pretty much falls within the ambit of our discussion today, which you didn't touch upon, was you sparked of India at 75 that time. And that was a lot to do with youth and youth getting involved in the future of the country. And today we've, of course, transformed that into India at 100. And we would look at your leadership for another idea which you have given us in a mission mode is building trust. And we'll look forward and keep turning to you, to your leadership on really making this actually happen, not just from the institution, from our institution, but on behalf of the country through you, if we can support and get your leadership to make this really happen and see some outcomes like what you talked about, the affirmative action work where we used to report quarterly. So I'd like to end by saying that we want your leadership, we want your acceptance, and we would like you to really take us ahead in one of the most important area that we can make a huge difference as we move towards 2047 Viksit Bharat. And but would like to really thank you and give the last words to you for this brilliant session that you have given to us.
Just to say, you can count on me, CV.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I request the dignitaries to please step forward for a photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we conclude this session. May I request everyone to please be seated. We have a short break and the next session will be in this hall, the Darbar Hall at 2:15 with Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, the Honorable Minister of Railways, Electronics and Information and Broadcasting. I'm sure everyone would want to attend that. May I request everyone, the next session in this Darbar Hall will be at 2:15 with Honorable Minister